So for both of you, we're going to move on now to our rapid five, which I'm told is a modern pentathlon joke. So I'm a little bit out of the loop on that one. But we're moving on to our rapid five, and I'm going to ask both of you these questions. So, number one, your favourite country that you've travelled to and competed in? Ed?
Not Kazakhstan.
I was just about to say not Kazakhstan. Immediately when you asked that question, I went, not Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your least favourite? Yep.
Oh, boy. Ed, you go first.
That's a tough one because we've been to so many amazing countries. But I would say often it's the places you least expect and the places that you go to a country and you go there and you're able to immerse yourself with the people. And one of the great things about pentathlon is you're not going there as a tourist. You're going there for a purpose. You're going there for a reason, and you get to meet the locals. You get to meet the local organisers and all the different people a part of that process. And so it becomes, really awesome that you get to experience a whole different side of that country. The best, I don't know, I've had so many amazing countries that I've been to and so many amazing experiences that it's hard to put exact number. I'd probably say it would have to be London Olympics just because it was the Olympics and had all my family and friends over there, and we did a lot of travel and things afterwards. So I'll have to go with a pretty poor answer in the scheme of things. But it would be the UK.
Yep. And Marina, for you?
Oh gosh, in terms of this is so hard. Probably in terms of immersing yourself in the experience, Germany. I trained at the centre there, and that was so awesome. The people were just wonderful, and I've made some really, really good friends. One of which actually, she's actually a Guatemalan, and I had no idea she was at the training centre at the time, and I call her Guado, and I'm like, and she calls me Aussie, and I turned up to the training centre on the first day, and I just hear this Aussie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're here. So that was pretty special. But I think it's just the people, where you find good people, that tends to be your most memorable place. But I've had great fun at all sorts of places, like Belarus championships, more so because my friends were there, and Poland's always fantastic, and Hungary's also go to some pretty different places in pentathlon, and they're all unique and weird and wacky. But even Kazakhstan, I have a soft spot for, Ed, even though the food was a bit strange. But
it is really, I guess, those connections and the people that you meet, which does make sport and that whole lifestyle so special and so unique. And certainly for me, that was one of my fondest memories as well, was just all of the connections that you make all over the world.
Totally.
So question number 2, sweet or savoury? Marina?
Oh, savoury. Spag bowl for days.
Really?
Spag bowl for days.
But I hear you're a bit of a gelato fan.
I am a gelato. That's the one sweet. I don't like any other sweets, but gelato. I had gelato last night at Messina. It was good. Got my calcium and my protein, and it's basically recovery food. Let's be real. We get protein
totally,
powder.
Yeah. A bit of dairy, bit of protein,
Exactly.
bit of fruit if you go for a fruit.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a health food, I think.
100%.
Ed, for you?
Oh, sweet. No questions asked. Yeah.
What's your favourite?
Oh, I don't know. I've got a sweet tooth, and I think the fact that I'm now back into pentathlon, I can justify it a little bit more.
Nice. For both of you, hardest training session you've ever done. Ed, we'll start with you.
Oh,
I know it. I know.
So the hardest training session, I mean, this wasn't a particular training session, but the hardest day of physical exercise, can we put that out there, or is that outside the box?
Sure.
So the hardest physical day I've had was climbing Aconcagua, which was the summit day, where we went from 6,000 to 7,000 meters, which was about 14-hour trek up in Argentina. And that was just so brutal. I was dehydrated. I was falling asleep, and you take 3 breaths for every one step that you took. That was absolutely brutal. But in terms of training sessions, I was a pretty poor swimmer, as I mentioned, when I got into the sport. And in 2010, I went and lived with the Espositos and moved into their garage for a couple of months. And
You're back.
We just lost you for a sec there. Yep. So pick up from, you moved in with the Espositos.
Yeah, moved in with the Espositos for a couple of months and trained with Chloe. And we did some pretty brutal swim sessions during that time. A couple of 7, 8K swim sessions there, which sort of was pretty full on at the time, particularly when I wasn't a swimmer and wasn't coming from a swimming background. I think you got to take into consideration your conditioning and where you're at that particular point in time. I mean, I think earlier on, I probably had some really brutal sessions, but if I did that now, it's just like a walk in the park. So at each stage, I think you need to take into consideration where you are at and where you want to go, of course. But and then that is also at that particular time can tell you what's brutal or what's not. But they were two particular days that I'll always remember.
Absolutely. That's a great point. I think I'll never forget my first bike ride for rowing training. It sticks in my mind forever, even though looking back, I'm like, wow, I had no idea how much worse it could be. But it is where you're at in the time, isn't it? Marina, what's yours?
Again, I'd probably go with Ed, do two things. I remember there was a swimming camp that I did up in Thredbo with my first swimming coach, which Ed, who introduced me to. I remember one day we did a 2.5 kilometer breaststroke set, and I hate breaststroke. It's so slow, and that was just so awfully painful, and I hated every minute of it. But in terms of overall, the first World Cup I ever did, Junior Championships, which was the first heat and final. So to explain, you do a heat, so you do the entire pentathlon minus the riding, have a rest day, and then do an entire pentathlon again. And I remember the day after the final, I could hardly walk. I was so exhausted. I thought, oh my gosh, I've never been so tired in my life. So yeah, probably those two stick out in my mind.
They sound pretty tough. All right, let's go to, what sport would you like to try other than modern pentathlon? Oh, come on, it's got to be rowing.
Marina, you can kick that one.
Part of my crazy mind wants to take up biathlon skiing, because it's skiing and shooting. I'm like, I could go to the Winter Olympics for that, because I can shoot and ski.
Hey,
natural progression. Yeah.
That's cool. I'm supportive of that. That would be an amazing journey to make the switch over to the Winter Olympics. Plus, they get really cool Olympic kit as well.
Exactly.
So I'm a bit envious of the Winter Olympic team.
So yes, that's my very crazy part of my brain. The other part of my brain goes, oh my gosh, you don't need to bleed any more money.
That's true. Ed, how about you?
Oh, well, I'd stick with the equestrian sports. I know they're a part of pentathlon, but that's really what I enjoy. That's one of the reasons I got into the sport in the first place. So, doing the 3-day eventing or show jumping or something like that in the Olympics to be, a lot of fun. I hear sailing's quite good fun too, Sarah. Is that true?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition of fun. Maybe coming from a rowing background, sailing is fun.
But
I was going to ask actually if potentially going to equestrian at the Olympics is something that's feasible, for you.
I think if you really wanted to focus on that, there's a lot of money involved there, and being over in Europe. Both of those two things I don't think are things I'd like to do at this stage of my life with the family. But as we've seen many times before, nothing is out of the question. You never know where life can take you, and where things end up. But no, I mean, that's certainly not. No, I think 2 Olympics will do me fine.
Fair enough. That's a pretty good record, I think. And we'll move to our last question of the rapid 5. Your best best training tip, either that you've received or that you would give to someone else for modern pentathlon?
Ed, you go first.
So the best training tip I would give is recovery. Just making sure you've got enough recovery. I mean, when I started, I needed to pick up these 3 sports, and it was just like more is better, and you get into this process where you're almost doing as much as you can, and you can do that for a period of time, but the body actually performs better when it's got good recovery periods, and that you're able to periodize your training program, and you can have rest. So, I mean, I don't regret my mentality of always push, but now I've got people that, like Dean, that tell me when to stop. So I think having that recovery period is really important, particularly in a sport like pentathlon, where there's just so many sports and so much commitment that you need. And it's not just physical recovery, it's also mental, and just taking some time out, whether that's spending time with friends or family, or just, having that day off. And so I think for me, that was the biggest, and hopefully some people can also take away something from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important, not just for modern pentathlon, but for anyone from any sport who's listening, particularly when you're young, and certainly from a rowing background or a sailing background. I can definitely appreciate that advice, and that would be advice I'd give to my younger self. So that's a great tip. And Marina, what's yours?
I'd probably say flexibility, and just accepting that, you're not always going to be able to nail everything, and forgiving yourself for not completing every single session every single week. Life gets in the way, and when you do 5 sports, stuff goes wrong, and you're not pretty much always going to be able to do every single thing. So being prepared to adapt, be flexible where you need to be, and forgiving yourself if you don't get it all done.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure to talk to you both, and I've really enjoyed our little chat today, learning a bit more about this amazing sport, modern pentathlon, which has such a rich and interesting history. So thank you for sharing with us, and I wish you all the very best on your journey to Tokyo 2021.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.